Oh, what's good, everybody? Welcome into Behind the Turnbuckle. Today, we're trying something new. Our interview series continues here at the brand. And as many of you know, we don't just do big time former wrestlers. We want to hear all the stories from all the different people who called the WWE or any other wrestling organization home. And today, we have a very special one for you, a man that I worked with for well over a decade. 26 years in the WWE, and he was in charge of setting up a million different things that we're going to get into right now live for the very first time. But now that he's on outside of the WWE, he's working on some really cool projects, including this one.
The one constant through all the years has been baseball. This field, this game, it's a part of our past. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. People will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Wow. What is that? Well, we're going to ask the man himself. Let's welcome in for the very first time a man that I've called a friend since 1999. 26 years inside the WWE. Steve Rubin, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Well, thanks, Coach. I mean, that's a hell of an introduction right there. I can't. How am I going to top that? You know,
Well, you're going to tell some great stories.
you're putting me on a high level here.
Well, you are. I mean, we've already had Chimmel, Photo, and now you. So how do you follow those two guys? That's the big question. All right, before we get into WWE, so it's awesome to have you here. It's going to be story time. Very first time we've done this live, so you're my guinea pig. But I want you to tell the good people out there, what was that we just saw? What are you working on right now?
So that was the promo video for the first ever. We like first evers in the WWE. We
Hell
come
yeah,
from the
first
world of first evers, right?
Yep.
This was the first ever concerts at the Field of Dreams movie site in Dyersville, Iowa, where the actual movie was filmed. It's a landmark now. It's a museum. You know, the fields are still there. The White House is still there. All the different elements from the movie. Field of Dreams are still there. It draws like 15,000 people every weekend just to walk on the field, just to play, where the movie was filmed. This will be the first ever concert series this coming weekend, August 30th, August 31st, Dyersville, Iowa. Saturday night, headlined by Tim McGraw, the great
What?
Tim McGraw. 20,000 people expected there. First ever concerts there. Sunday night, headlined by Nickelback and Brantley Gilbert. Same thing. Two huge shows in the Dyersville, Iowa area. Dubuque, Des Moines, Chicago, Omaha, all those, Midwestern cities, the first ever shows ever at the Field of Dreams movie site in Iowa. It's going to be historic.
How did you get to be involved in this? What you have a new company or consulting? What are you doing?
So in my post WWE life, I have started a consulting business, live events, broadcast, using my 26 years of experience with the WWE, doing all kinds of events. That was one of the great things about what we did at WWE is we did everything in house.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we were talking about movie premieres and press conferences and upfronts, the launch of the WWE Network, media events, all those things that WWE would do all the time, we would all do them in-house. And so we got to work on all those different types of events. And if we never done it before,
damn it, we try
it. Figure it out. Let's go.
That's it.
Take that experience that you have doing a normal Raw, a normal SmackDown, a normal premium live event, a stadium show, a WrestleMania, a tribute to the troops, and you take that experience and you're adapting it to whatever the company or Mr. McMahon was throwing at you. Wow. So because of that and that experience, it leads to, you know, the consulting aspect of being able to jump in and help any other type of event that's looking to get off the ground, and help them succeed. So,
Wow.
you
Super
know,
cool.
in that post WWE life, I've been networking and you know, trying to build this business, and it came across my plate.
That's
You know,
amazing.
the concept for these Field of Dreams concerts.
Wow.
And
Wow.
when I heard about it, you know, pun intended, I knew it was a home run. You know,
Right.
and you know, so because of that, I got involved, and we had the we had the idea to try to pitch it for a TV streaming, which didn't actually pan out, and we were using all those different connections with all those different entities that we have uh, developed relationships with over 26 years to help build this into the
Right.
massive event that it's going to be.
Wow.
So
Well, I can.
and
So
it's
real quick,
super, you know, super fun. Like,
hell, are you kidding? It looks amazing, and you got such
mm,
big names and Tim McGraw and Nickelback.
mm,
Real quick, because I feel like I need to add something to the show in a second. But real quick, how can people that want to run their own events? How can they get a hold of you right now? Let's put it out there. How can they have Steve Rubin
uh,
on their team?
well, I mean, you know, link up with me on LinkedIn, you know, or through my consult Steve Rubin Consulting LLC.
Okay.
Both of them, their LinkedIn pages for both of those, and reach out to me through there.
All right. LinkedIn, Steve Rubin, LLC, consulting. Let's go. Make yourself better. That's what he does. But, Rubes, as I'm sitting here, you just brought up so many different things that you were involved in. A lot of them I hosted, some I did not, but you were always the man. But I feel like you had two lives. You were on the road, but you were also back at the TV studio.
Mhm.
And we started this brand about a year and 3 months ago, but I have a partner and you may know him. I feel like maybe we need to add him to the.
There he is.
That's way too big.
Wow, Tommy Carlucci, what are you
What
doing?
what's up, Rubin? What's happening, man? We got this thing covered from head to toe. Do you know how many years experience we got here in WWE, folks? Check it out. Enjoy this, Rubin. It is great to see you. I remember when you started at the TV studio, man. I remember when you were a floor manager working on the road.
uh,
Wow.
Floor manager trained by the great Tommy Carlucci.
Boom, boom,
Thank you.
boom, boom, boom. All right.
And then we got Tommy had a meltdown because he got stuck in Little Rock, Arkansas during a
Oh
storm,
my God, are
and
you kidding me?
decided he didn't want to go on the road anymore. And that's when I was tagged in to go full time, you know, 4 weeks a
Was
month on the road.
was that the moment?
That
Because
was the moment.
okay, so Ruben, I'm so glad you're here because we've argued about this exact story on the show
Oh,
before. And for fans that have been here since day one, you know the story. We got stuck in Little Rock, Arkansas. We had to get to Vince's plane. We only had
yeah,
5 minutes to spare to get wheels up because of the weather. So
yeah.
I was pissed that I didn't get stuck in Little Rock because I wanted to party with all of our friends like Steve. So, Ruben, did Tommy or did Tommy not turn this into planes, trains, and automobiles to just try and get home? And all he got to was St.
so
Louis.
so to uh, go 100% on the story, I was not there in Little Rock because Tommy and I were rotating at the floor manager position at
Yes.
the time because he trained me so
Yes.
very well, and you know, we would rotate weeks. You know, so
Correct.
I wasn't there,
But
so
you
I
were at the
can't.
TV studio when
With the
the
TV studio.
secretary kept saying Michelle, 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 Michelle. He called like 1,000 times that day.
Yes, I did.
Yes, true. Uh, and then I heard about the said meltdown of uh, him not, you know, that's it, I'm done on the road, you know.
So great. By the way, if you guys that are watching right now live, I see the chat is absolutely popping. If you have a question for Rubin about anything WWE, put it in the chat via a super sticker, and producer man will let me know, and we'll get the question over to Steve momentarily. All right, we will not throw Tommy under the bus, but we have a million different things I want to talk to you about. And you had such a unique job after Tommy had his meltdown and didn't want to travel anymore. Because you were the guy. Whenever like we'd go to an arena and be like, hey, can this happen? Well, where's Rubin? You became the guy that everybody leaned on. Vince, Kevin Dunn, everybody. How did it feel when you got to the point where basically you were the guy responsible for the arenas, for the tickets, and making sure everything went smooth?
So to back that story up a second, right? So yes, I started on the road under Tommy's tutelage. We'd floor manage. We would be ringside during the show. We would go backstage. We would stage manage every now and then. This was in February of 2000. First show was No Way Out 2000, Hartford, Connecticut, with Mick Foley and Triple H in the Hell in the Cell, right? And Tommy's training me. And we get to the main event, and he goes, "You're not ringside for this." I said, "What do you mean I'm not ringside for this?" He goes, "Well, we have no idea what this crazy son of a bitch Mick Foley's going to do, and it's your first show ringside, and you don't know what the hell to do to get out of the fucking way if he's decided to get out of the and I don't want you getting hurt ringside,
Wow.
So yeah, and so that being said, yeah, I was not. So, yeah.
Wow. So basically, he big timed you, is what you're saying. He big timed you.
No, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna say he, in the fatherly way of the Carlucci family.
Yeah.
So essentially, one of the biggest moments in the history of the wrestling business, Tommy, you bullied Steve Rubin out of the way, is what you did.
I'm not going to say that. Come on.
Well, so what was that night like? We've heard Tommy's recollection of it, but that was we know the Undertaker says that Mick Foley said, "I'm going to throw myself if you don't throw me." What do you remember about that night in particular from your perspective?
Well, it was the other Hell in the Cell. It was Triple H versus.
Yeah, it was Triple H.
It was Triple H.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was Mick Foley and Undertaker.
Yeah. No, it was Triple H, and so it was the one where he came down through the ring, not outside the ring.
Oh, got it. My bad. I get those.
I would have been fine. Nothing happened on the outside, but nobody. But back in those days, we didn't know these things. Nobody. Nobody was smarting anybody up about anything back then.
Wow.
So we had no clue. So Tommy protecting me just says, "You're not going to be out here. Just go backstage and help out backstage." But so.
Tommy, you're not going to say anything. Tommy, you're not going to jump in.
I'm just going to do this right here. I'm like, I took
he did the right thing. He did the right thing. Took care of his boy.
Like so going out on a hit and not.
I was greener than at that point.
Yeah, it was. What was that? What was that like, Rubin? Because at that time, that's when you and I both started around the same time. Mm-hmm. And I tell people that not only was it the best time in the business, we had the most stars that could main event WrestleMania. So every night it was sold out. It didn't matter where we were at. And when you started taking over the tickets and doing more than just stage managing, you were busy throughout the day. But was it relatively easy because every single building, because of The Rock and Stone Cold, it was sold out to the rafters?
So I take over this job. So this job, they come to me with this job offer in like August of 2001. And, Kevin Dunn comes to me and says, "Hey, we want to create this job and we think you're the guy for it." Because at that point there had been iterations of this job, but it wasn't a TV job. There was somebody who kind of managed it, but it was always on the live event side or on the operations side. And TV wanted to take it over, and TV wanted it to be more of a TV job and have somebody who really understood the TV aspect of our show and then be able to relate it back to everything else. So he comes to me and says, we want somebody who understands TV, who can then learn the live event aspect of it, the live event in the arena. So the lighting, the rigging, the sound, the pyrotechnics, all that type of
Wow.
stuff. And then take that information from the entire production standpoint of what we do and communicate that to the live event marketing team and venue, and be the one person who is the bridge between all these different entities, and making sure that everything is running smoothly. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing all the time, and that anything that could affect the look and feel of our TV show that's being done by the live event marketing team or the venue gets communicated back to TV, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, and then so it starts with before we go on sale, communicating with the venues and the live event team of, okay, this is where the ring is going to sit. This is how big the ring is, right? This is where the set's going to sit, the entranceway. This is how big it is, right? This is where we're putting cameras, so kill these seats for cameras, kill these seats because they're going to be behind the set. Don't sell them, right? We're placing cameras all over the building at 10, 12 different camera locations around the building. So this is where they're all going to go. Don't sell these seats, right? And this is how many seats we can fit on the floor, because of we need spacing for cameras to move around. We need spacing for talent to be able to fight out in the crowd safely, for wheelchairs to be able to get through, for all those different types of things, that anything that can affect the show. And we need to hold these seats behind the announcers because that's where we put celebrities, when they come to our shows. Or when we need to sell these seats first because they're going to be more visible on camera. And when those seats sell, then we're going to open up more seats that are going to be,
Wow.
behind.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And that's just before you go on sale, right?
Wow.
So, and you're
Let me ask you this. You guys had to remove signs. What's the craziest sign that you and Tommy, I want your answer too, that you ever had to remove from ringside? What did it say, if you remember?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I became lifelong enemies with Sign Guy.
Yeah, sign guy from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. Sign Guy and I would go toe to toe, like, on a daily basis.
He would always bring the signs, and he became such a legend that we wanted to give him tickets, right? But he always bought his. We tried to, but he always bought them.
And for a while they liked him, and then they didn't like him, and so he would always buy the tickets across from camera, and then I'd always have to move them. So it became a joke at one point. But I can't remember any specific sign that was that bad that I remember it that much.
Tommy, did you have
it was
one?
always like it was phone numbers. People would put phone numbers on signs, or email addresses, or this guy's gay, or I'm with stupid, or whatever. And you're like,
I'm with stupid.
Like, we don't care about your sexual orientation. We don't care about that this one, but. And we're not here to advertise your Instagram handle or your business or your phone number. So, and plus, they would put like random people's phone numbers up, and then that person would get millions of calls.
Absolutely brutal. All right, so let me ask you this, because Kevin Dunn, for people who don't know, Kevin Dunn was probably the highest paid producer in the history of time, but he sat in the seat and he would scream and yell if something wasn't done in the amount of time that he felt like it was. Tommy, I'll start with you, and then Steve. Watch the language a little bit, but can you remember getting yelled at the most by Kevin Dunn? What was the moment?
The moment? Wow, there's a lot of moments because he picks on you for no reason at all. The greatest line ever, from Kevin Dunn is, Carlucci, If I had a gun in this state and we were allowed, I would kill you.
Oh my God, that sounds like him.
Yep.
Oh my
And by the
God.
way, back to sign guy, KD hated that guy. He goes, Carlucci, if you could bury this guy, you give him an elbow, you knock him down, you got my blessing. This guy's such a jerk. And Vince loved the guy because he was putting over the product or whatever he was doing. So you had a clash. And on the kayfabe, he pulled me over. He goes, dude, if you could just nudge him, knock him down. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Oh my God.
We're gonna hit somebody. Yeah, Kevin
That sounds
was
like Kevin D. Kevin
yeah,
Dunn.
that he was quite the unique character. But you know, I remember this one, Steve. You got one job to do. Can you just do it right? And then he would chew in your ear. After he's
Oh, it's
eating.
nasty.
Oh, it was just horrible.
Rubin, what do you remember?
I'm gonna go to Kevin's defense here. First of all, every producer yells and screams at everybody during a live TV show, so it's not just Kevin, you know. and you have to know that you're in the battlefield at that point. It's not personal. It's it's live TV. If you can't handle it, you're in the wrong business.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, it's high pressure. It's short time frames, and every producer that I've ever worked with is like that. Yes, there are some that are more violent, I guess, with their yelling than others, but they're all like that. So let's not pick just on Kevin.
I have a bingo card for every show, Rubin, and I just checked off one that's never been said before. Defending Kevin Dunn here on the show. All right, that's my upper left. Was there ever a time, Steve, where because I used to love it when I'd be getting ready for whatever my part in the show was, and you'd be running somewhere, and you knew something was going on. Was there ever a time when you were up at the ticket office because somebody didn't get their will call tickets, and all of a sudden you hear, Rubin, we need you at ringside for something, and you had to make that business decision?
There had to have been. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. To answer your first question, or the other question, the worst yelling at that I ever got was like one of my first shows as floor manager, right? And we used to have a pyro guy, this pyro shooter whose name was Steve Dobo, right? So Steve Dobo was the guy who actually hits the button and fires the pyrotechnics, right? I didn't know Steve Dobo from Adam at this point, right? So Steve Dobo fucks up Taz's pyro cue, right?
No.
And Kevin goes, Steve, what happened to Taz's pyro? So I key in. I go, I don't know. I think he's talking to me, right? He goes, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I don't know. Right?
Oh my God!
But yeah, he starts going off on a tirade, and then he realizes that he's not talking to Steve Doe, but he's talking to Steve Rubin. Right.
Did he apologize?
So he goes, Steve, from now on, when I'm talking to you, you'll be Steve fucking Rubin. And for 25 years later, when I was the only Steve left, at the point there was like 4 or 5 Steves that were on the road. There was Steve Dobo, Steve Taylor, me, Steve Austin, right, that guy, and up until about maybe 2023, I was always Steve Rubin. Anybody see Steve Rubin?
That's hilarious.
I was still Steve Rubin.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. By the way, I said that we would only bring up questions or comments from super stickers, but we have one very special one that I want to bring up that doesn't need anything other than the post that they made. Producer man, if you don't mind, look at that. Look at that.
Oh, that's cool.
How old is Jesse right now, Rubes?
He'll be 19 in 2 days.
What? God, amazing. 19 years old. We all knew each other before kids, way before kids. Mine are 17 and 15. Tommy was the first adult to ever meet my daughter, who's 17 years old. Who was born in Stamford, Connecticut. Incredible. Speaking of families, Tommy, you weren't there for this particular story. However, for those of you watching at home, Steve has a wonderful wife, and she's always thinking about how she can do kind of out of the box things, even back in the day prior to the kids. So there was this was the home improvement boom, was it not, Steve? That there was a lot of home improvement shows. This particular one that she submitted her husband for was one where they come to your home and they redo a room in your house that you want improved, right? But you got to have a hook. There's got to be a hook. And I was the hook. So she submits and says, hey, if you come to my house, I can have a resident WWE talent as part of the shoot. They bought it and they booked it. But then I had to be committed to showing up to Steve Rubin's home to redo his kitchen. And it all has to be done in one day because he's coming home from work.
Surprise by Design, the show was called.
That was the show, Surprise by Design. I called it Surprise by getting hit on the entire day by one of the hosts. But we get it done.
But let's clarify this. There was a male host and there was a female host.
Correct.
And both of them hit on Coach the entire day.
Yeah, I was dodging bullets everywhere, but we had a good time. It was nothing inappropriate. It just was what it was. So I'll never forget, she's on the phone with Steve, and he's coming home. We needed another 15 minutes. She sends him on an errand for something ridiculous that didn't even make any sense.
She told me that we were going to have dinner with her boss. That first of all, it was a major snowstorm. We were living in Westchester County at the time. There was a major snowstorm like that the day before. So like the entire house is covered with snow, and they couldn't park any cars around our house because it would have blown the surprise. So they had to park everybody at like the shopping mall, like 2 miles away, and like. Shuttle bus everybody in, right? So I'm told that I have to be home by a certain time because we're going to dinner with my wife's boss.
Yep.
So
you're rushing to get home.
I'm rushing to get home
too early.
And they weren't done. And then she sends me to go get flowers, and I get the flowers. I leave the supermarket. She sends me back for something else.
Yes. So Tom, you can imagine I'm over it. I'm over it at this point. Yeah. We're talking 8-9 hours in Rubin's house. I'm done. I'm done. So I'll never forget the moment he walks in, and we're all crouching in this kitchen that I'm quite sure he's not going to like. And all of a sudden, the door flies open, the cameras are ready, and surprise! And this is, and I quote, exactly what Steve Rubin does. Oh, fuck!
No, what the fuck? Right on camera.
What the fuck? And I'm like, oh my God. And then he had to deal with it. I'm telling you, as soon as we did the surprise, we're bolting. I'm like out of here. But Rubin, those are the type of things as your friend I was willing to do for you. Would you like to publicly thank me in front of everybody?
Yeah, I'm going to publicly thank you. But here's the other thing, right? So we go back to talking about like how we did everything our own at WWE, and we did stuff bare bones, and everyone did the job of like 4 different people, right? Sure. So I come into the house and I look at this crew that's doing the show, and there's like 1 million people in my house. Like, there's like 5 cameramen, and like each one has a camera utility and a PA, and there's this, and they took over like there's a bedroom that's just makeup, and like also, and I look over and I'm like, we would do this shoot with 1/4 of the people.
It's shocking that show didn't survive at all. They had way too many people. The overhead was too much. It was too much. Now another show that, Tommy, we originally wanted you on this shoot, and then we knew if we got you there, we may never get you out. And I'm talking about the Girls Gone Wild, the only pay-per-view in the history of Girls Gone Wild. I hosted, and Rubin, you were in charge of the logistics. How in the world did WWE get into business with Girls Gone Wild?
So the way the story goes, right, is Eric Bischoff, through his production company, became partners with Joe Francis
Yes.
at Girls Gone Wild. And this guy was shadier than shady, by the way. And so they came to Eric and they wanted to do this live Girls Gone Wild pay-per-view from South Padre Island. Senor Frogs was the name of the
That's
bar
right.
in South Padre Island. And so Eric went to WWE production and said, hey, we want to do this as a live Girls Gone Wild pay-per-view. Girls Gone Wild wants to hire WWE as a production crew to come in and do this shoot
That's
live
right.
because they've never done anything other than record on a camcorder at a bar before, so they have no expertise in doing a live TV show at all, right? So they come in and they hire WWE as the production company to do this live Girls Gone Wild pay-per-view. So we are we're putting this thing together. We have a lot. We bring a TV truck. We bring the crew down. We bring down audio guys, camera guys, jibs,
Kevin
stage
Dunn came.
managers.
Kevin
Yeah,
Dunn came.
he produced it, which is a great story that I'll tell you. And I was stage managing that show at that point. So we're in charge of. I'm actually the guy who's standing at the top of the stairs, sending the girls down the stairs as they are supposed to make their entrance for this Miss Girls Gone Wild pageant that it was supposed to be.
Miss Girls Gone Wild.
Right?
See, Tommy, this is the part of the story we wouldn't have gotten you out of.
Yeah.
Remember that. Please continue, Steve.
So before we even get down there, we were trying to staff this thing up, and everybody's like, I'm probably like 27, 28 at the time. I'm married, but I don't have kids yet. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to go do this because it's different, and it's interesting,
Oh, it's different.
and everybody else is like, oh, it's going to be a party. It's, it's spring break. There's going to be, naked chicks all over the place. They're like, don't tell my wife that I'm going to work this thing. And I'm like, my wife could give a crap. Like,
She is cool.
She's cool like that. Yeah. She everything I've ever told her, like, she's like, she knows, she trusts me. She knows I'm not going to do anything stupid, and so she had no problem with me going there. Right. So, and at that point, we're doing, it's a spring break show, right? So we're there the night before to do a site survey at the bar, right? And similarly to what we were going to be doing for the actual pay-per-view, they had a wet t-shirt contest, right? And all of a sudden, the bar backs up to the water, to the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America or whatever we're calling it now, right? And you start to see Coast Guard ships start lining the Gulf, like right by the bar, and we're like, what the hell is going on? They're like, well, the Coast Guard has got to police this. What are they policing, right? Well, if the girls decide to, go south instead of going north,
Whoa.
that's illegal, and the Coast Guard will come in and shut the entire place down, and we'll all get arrested. And we're like,
oh,
what?
What?
We're like, what? Yeah.
What?
So if now we're all thinking, tomorrow night, we're doing the same thing. We're on live TV. These girls, start dropping their drawers. We're all going to jail at this point.
That's pressure right there. That's pressure. You never know. For $25, by the way, it was $24.99 if I remember correctly.
Right, and so there's all kinds of stuff. The girl. My job is we have a room at the top of the stairs where it's basically the gorilla position at that point. We're sending all the girls from there. I'm the one controlling them coming down the stairs. Snoop Dogg is one of the judges. So Snoop's entire entourage starts crowding the top of the stairs where I'm supposed to be sending these girls from. Bishop Don Magic Wand with his chalice And like now they're starting to like migrate their way down the stairs. So Snoop's entire entourage is now in every camera shot. Right? Get Snoop's entourage off the steps.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So the girls start coming down the steps. They're groping the girls, like all this stuff, and it's just going south fast.
It was a disaster.
Right.
It was a disaster. What did like 8,000 people showed up, and it only fit 4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah,
I believe.
yeah, it was super packed. Like one of the WWE and WWE had like there's cross promotion involved with it. So they had was it Tori Wilson and Nydia right at the time? They were in like a little program. So they had the two of them like do a cat fight on the stage, and like me and Warren Bradley and you had to pull them apart on live TV.
If I have to.
Yeah, so now not only is this the most embarrassing disaster of a TV show, but now my face is all over it, and
forever.
The end of the night is supposed to be this world's largest flash. Do you remember this?
Oh yes.
And we
yes.
had to like literally, any girl that was in the crowd that wanted to come on stage and flash, we were allowed to. So we were literally picking girls up out of the crowd, lifting them over the barricade and putting them on stage.
I remember Steve saying to myself, this is where it all ends for me. Yeah. My career ends right here in South Padre Island, Texas. And Joe Francis, an awful human being, is going to be the reason for it. And you felt that way. We all felt that way when we left that place.
He was supposedly, I never heard this. I never saw this, but he was apparently like in the gorilla position, snorting cocaine off of a couch.
I don't know if that ever happened. It wouldn't surprise me at that point because he was just crazy. He was just crazy. All right, let's move on to another one. Tommy, what is a former event that you wanted to ask Steve about? I know there's a few.
Well, I'm interested in the Hall of Fame because you have to deal with tons of talent and you have to deal with families. And as we know, some of our talent can be very persuasive on you. How did you deal with all those requests to try to satisfy everybody, and even from the big guys to the regular mid-card guys who brought their families there? Man, that's a hard position to put yourself in. How did you handle that with each talent coming up to you and saying, hey, I need 10 tickets, or I got my family here, and where they were positioned? Were you part of that where they were positioned, or was that Vince, Kevin saying, all right, I want Steve up front with Shane? And how did that go? How did you guys do that?
So again, we're talking about the same idea that we did everything at WWE in-house, right?
Yep.
And we worked all of these different types of shows. So the Hall of Fame is in essence an award show, right? It functions the same way as you would the Oscars or the Grammys or so, where you would have the inductees on stage talking. You would have the current talent sitting out in the crowd watching them, right? So, and we had to know that if Ric Flair's being inducted and he's going to reference Triple H in his speech, well, we want to have a cutaway shot of Triple H. So we need to know where Triple H is sitting, right, in the crowd. So it became a function of TV to do the seating chart for the Hall of Fame, right? So I would place every single talent and their family in the crowd with a chart, know where they were, put their names on their seats with pictures. Obviously for the Academy Awards or for the Grammys, they have pictures on the seats because you can't assume that camera guys know who everybody is. Our camera guys know who our talent is, unless there's somebody who's an old timer, or they're talking about like their trainer or somebody that you may not know. But for the most part, our camera guys know who every talent is. And they know the legends and they know everybody who's been affiliated with WWE for over the years. But so we would, starting like 2 weeks before the Hall of Fame, I would get a list from the talent relations department of who's coming to the show, how many people they're bringing, and we would have to allocate those seats, and it would change 1.5 million times. Uh, love the Samoans, but they were the worst. They would bring
36 people.
36 people and say they're bringing 10. And they would all need to sit together. And or Jericho would say he's bringing like 8 people and he would bring 4. So he'd allocate all those seats, and then you'd have to adjust on the fly when people don't show up, or people bring more people than they're supposed to, or less people than they're supposed to. And there was always the I'm wrestling this guy tomorrow and I'm sitting too close to him tonight, because
that's what I was going to ask you.
Back when we were starting this, it was less accepted, the behind the scenes aspect of it. And, obviously, with Unreal and the entire, there's no such thing as kayfabe anymore.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
With the few exceptions here and there, obviously the big surprises and whatnot are still kept very, very confidential. But everybody understands that it's
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And there are still some guys. That want to try to maintain it as much as they can. But back in the day, it was Cena and Triple H were wrestling the next night in the main event at WrestleMania, and they're too close to each other at the Hall of Fame. Well, these guys aren't animals. Like, they're not going to get into a fight in the middle of a fancy event like this. You would like to think that, but so there was always that aspect of it. And you try to keep tag teams together, or you try to keep factions together, or you would try to keep, if this guy was dating this girl, you obviously want to keep them together.
Wow. There's a lot that goes into it.
There was a lot that went into it, but for me, it was always one of the most fun things of the year because, again, it's different. And as the talent is coming in, it became part of the show, watching the talent come in and walk to their seats, and we would be the ones escorting them. And so I would always grab Trish or Tori or
what a shock. What a shock.
Right. And walk them out to their seats arm in arm, and try to get caught on camera walking with Trish Stratus.
All right, I'm looking at the clock, and we like to keep all these interviews to around 45 minutes so people like them, and then we can bring the guests back like Photo and Chimmel and all these different places and get to all the other stories we didn't get to in this one. So I always like to close our first episode with somebody like you, Rubin, asking you this. Of your 26 years in the WWE, there was a ton of good. You got married. You had kids. It was an incredible quarter century. When you look back on your career, what ultimately will you take away from it inside the WWE?
That's easy. Just the family aspect of it. And, what fun we had on the road all the time, because, you're on the road 140, 150 days a year, and your road crew becomes your road family. Yeah. And you're part of each other's lives. So you're there for each other when it's good, and you're there for each other when it's not good. And you're each other's support system, because your road crew is your road family. And that's what it was always for me,
Yeah.
So the amount like 9/11, when we got stuck on the road during 9/11 and nobody knew what was happening in the world in Houston. And, because my family all worked in New York. My wife worked in Midtown. My mother-in-law worked in Midtown. My sisters worked in Midtown. Obviously far away from where the trade center was, but at that point, nobody knew what was going on, right? So you're scared, you're emotional, and you had your road family at that time to lean on because you were there together. And you couldn't call anybody. You couldn't get anywhere. There were no flights. We did the 9/11 show live on Thursday, and it was the most emotional probably show
It was.
in the 26 years of us being there, maybe being there at the WWE. I remember, very, very vividly standing under the hard cameras, watching Lillian sing the national anthem and just crying my eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
And could not imagine having that experience with any other crew, because your road crew becomes your road family.
That's right.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And when good things happen, you're there for each other, and when bad things happen, you're there for each other.
That's right.
And it makes it would be very, very, very difficult to lead the life that we led and the schedule that we kept without that camaraderie. And that goes for talent, that goes for crew, that goes for executives, that goes for production. There are I'll tell you one quick story, and then we can go, and you talk about Kevin and the type of person that he was on the microphone, but the type of human being that he was to me behind the cameras was my wife we were pregnant before Jesse, my older son, and we had to terminate our pregnancy because there was a complication, and the baby would not have survived birth, right? So we had to terminate the pregnancy. I got a call that this was happening. It was like a Thursday or Friday, and I was scheduled to leave for a pay-per-view in Indianapolis or Buffalo, whatever. They're interchangeable, and that this was happening and that we were going to have to terminate this pregnancy. And I called Jen Good, who was our boss at the time, and said, "I'm not going on the road this week." I said, "I don't care what you got to do. Find somebody, figure it out, but I'm not leaving my wife in this condition." And it was never a question. Like, it was never, oh, you got to go on the road. This is your job. Yeah, sure. No problem. Whatever you need. And that was always the case. Right. And then, so the first time I come back on the road, I see Kevin, and he pulls me into a room, and he tells me a story about how something similar had happened to him or somebody in his family. I don't remember. And, that if whatever I need, the company's there for me. And that was always the case. And, because at the end of the day, we were all road family.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. That's
and
powerful.
That came right down from Vince.
Yep.
I will say this, and then we've got to get out of here, but my favorite Steve Rubin story, and it's not close, is when Rubin was not engaged yet. He took a trip to Los Angeles to ask his wife to marry him. During that trip, he decided to go to the Price is Right and stand in line to be on the Price is Right. Not only did he get on the Price is Right, but he won the entire damn show. And it didn't air for like 3 or 4 months. Remember this, Tommy? We got together and watched it at the TV studio.
Yeah.
And you were so damn nervous that every time Bob Barker asked you a question, you go, "Yes, Bob. Yes, Bob. Yes, Bob." You called him Bob every single time. And then I don't think I've seen a worse showcase showdown won by a human being before. I mean, you had to be looking at yourself going, these are my prizes. I just won the whole damn show. It was no car, no vacation. It was like Fruit of the Month Club, and but that was hilarious. And that's my favorite.
First of all, the whole production studio stopped. All production, everything stopped to watch that episode.
I died laughing.
Which is again goes to the point of the familial aspect of it. When one of us was involved with something, we were all involved with something, and the entire world production stopped. Number two, so the main prize was a digital piano, like this mini baby grand looking thing that had like these digital components in it. They were like early on, kind of like digital components, and like we would record the music and you can compose on it and whatnot, right? So I get a call that they're delivering this thing to my house, right? I remember we were going to site survey the arena at Mohegan Sun and delivering this thing to my house. And I told him, no, I have no place to put it. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. You got to hold it, right? And then I'm going to put it up on eBay and we're going to sell it and we'll have it shipped from wherever, right? I put it up on eBay on September 10th, 2001, right? We get stuck in Houston for 9/11 the next day or whatever, 2 days later. I had gotten like one offer for the piano, right, on eBay. And of course, we're stuck at Houston for 9/11, and there's no internet service, there's no phone service, there's no anything. And I've come to find out that uh, there were like I had the by the time we get back, the auction closed, and I got that one bid. But come to find out that there was like 10 or 12 other questions for this piano that had I been able to answer the questions, I would have gotten like way more money for the piano, right? So fucking Bin Laden cost me how much money for the piano?
What can you do? And on that note, we have to get out of here. We have to be done. Rubin, incredible stories today. It's great to see you again. Can't wait to have you on for many more stories in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, 26 years inside the WWE. He is Steve Rubin. That's going to do it for us. I'm the coach. He's Big Tommy, producer man behind the scenes. We'll see you next time. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to our BTT YouTube channel, do it right now. You get incredible episodes just like this one live. I'm the coach. We'll see you next time.